Thankfully, Daystar has had incredible opportunities presented to him since graduating. The man in charge of our opportunities to preach the gospel through satellite and over-the-air channels in all 195 countries is an international, and I just had a conversation with him. He responded, "Steve, is this unusual how many open doors we're seeing in 2024 and even so far in 2025? His response was, "I can tell you it's all firsts. In my 25 years of service at Daystar, I have never witnessed such an influx of opportunities." The point is that if I am acquainted with Marcus Lamb, he is doing all in his power to assist me within that large cloud of witnesses. We are both aware of his doggedness. Have you been present during Joni's speech? I am filled with a sense of pride. Not merely confidence, but pride, entwined with a troubling disconnection from the ongoing mayhem at Daystar. Something became crystal clear as I listened to her words. The aid from God is depicted in her drawing, but by doing so, she shows that the criticisms leveled against her leadership are completely irrelevant to her. Her discussion of Daystar's development during a contentious period makes me question her sense of duty, humility, and if she is even listening to those who have urged her to resign. The speech given by Joni Lamb was more than simply a summary of Daystar's accomplishments. Those who have challenged her authority seem to be the targets of these remarks. Instead of addressing the legitimate concerns about leadership honesty and morality, she decided to discuss how Daystar is supposedly doing better than ever. Let's take a close look at her words. She claimed that Daystar had opened previously unseen doors of opportunity for her. She asserts that a Daystar executive with over 20 years of experience has stated that he has never encountered such favor. However, what is the true significance of this? It might appear as evidence of God's expansion to the uninitiated observer, but the tone implies something totally different. A subtle but telling indicator that she believes no one can harm her is her apparent lack of concern for the opinions of others. Picture this. The public is watching as a leader faces criticism for ineffective management. Rather than offering a response, the leader takes to national television to boast about their consistent success. What does it imply? It sends the message, "Your opinion is irrelevant to me. There is no way you can defeat me." Therein lies the problem. Truly believing in God is an exquisite thing, but what happens when self-assurance becomes haughtiness? Just because you're successful doesn't mean you can use it to silence those who disagree with you. There's a fine line between the two. Everything that Joni Lamb has said, particularly about Marcus Lamb's presence among the many witnesses who are assisting her, makes her leadership seem as if it were supported by magic. This kind of language implies that anyone who disagrees with her is against God's will and against her as well. In times of difficulty, we must consider whether this is the behavior of a contrite follower of Christ. If her values of transparency and accountability were truly her own, she would have taken this opportunity to address the grievances of those who have been wronged by Daystar's actions. Partying, boasting about her success, and attributing it to God were her priorities, rather than addressing the pressing issues that required immediate attention. This is not the best course of action for a leader who prioritizes transparency. This is the response of an egotist who believes she is immune to criticism. There have been issues inside and outside of Daystar. Some have even demanded that Joni Lamb resign or take on more responsibility. An accountable leader would acknowledge these concerns regardless of their validity, but her words offered zero indication that she grasped the fact that people are upset, concerned, and in need of a voice. Her confident demeanor, on the other hand, lent credence to the notion that resisting is futile. "I am still here, and I am doing very well." That was the message. This level of distance is scary because it shows that you don't care about the people who are hurt by the situation. In the church in particular, a genuine leader does not silence their critics by highlighting their own achievements. When their fans are anxious, they reach out to them, listen, and do their best to comprehend their concerns. It's not right how Joni does things. No matter the cost to people, growth is good. Outcomes are more important than connections, and growth is a sign of divine approval. When compared to the modest leadership exhibited by ancient figures like Paul, Moses, and David, Joni Lamb's style stands out. Despite God's obvious fondness for King David, the latter refrained from using his victories to silence those who disagreed with him. After coming to terms with his transgression, he sought forgiveness and reconciliation with God and his fellow humans. Being proud and haughty always ends in disaster, as we can see in Proverbs 16:18. The way Joni phrased her remarks made it sound more like self-praise than the kind of thing a spiritual leader should say. God opposes the proud but shows mercy to the humble, James 4:6. A dangerous situation arises when a boss begins to believe that they are immune to harm. Many groups have fallen prey to controversy, division, and ultimately their own destruction because they erred on the assumption that being in God's favor makes one immune to criticism. A decision must be made by Daystar. Having reached millions of people all over the globe, the network has undeniably been a major player in Christian broadcasting. However, a ministry will fail if its members are arrogant and attempt to avoid conflict at all costs. Concerns about Joni Lamb's leadership style will persist regardless of her claims that doors are opening. Perhaps her words only served to exacerbate the situation. The public's already skepticism of Daystar's honesty is further bolstered, and the notion that the company's leadership is unwilling to face reality gets stronger. Joni Lamb ought to have acknowledged the situation, reaffirmed the significance of responsibility, and initiated a conversation. Rather than responding to the situation, she delivered a speech that sounded more celebratory. Because they were too conceited, many leaders have lost their positions. All kings and CEOs, whether living or dead, have lived this same story. Honesty mends wounds, and pride causes more harm. Joni Lamb recently made a statement that demonstrates this in response to the present issues at Daystar Television. Here was an opportunity, a golden moment to show humility, engage skeptics, and work toward peace. Rather, it was insulting, angry, and occasionally funny. Rather than tackling the serious accusations head on, Joni's comment appeared to lend credence to the notion that achieving success makes everything okay. But here's the thing, expanding one's network, seeing larger crowds, and opening doors are not indicators of success when serving others. What makes it possible is having good character, respecting others, and wanting to learn and improve. An opportunity was missed with Joni Lamb's remark. This was an opportunity to hear out the naysayers, demonstrate genuine empathy for the victims, and pledge transparency and accountability. It appeared more like a ploy, a subtle attack on those who dared to challenge her leadership. This strategy does double duty. It deepens the rift between Joni and her detractors and casts doubt on her ability to lead ethically. When leaders take criticism personally rather than humbly, it shows that they are more concerned with their public image than the truth. Let us be clear though, Joni Lamb isn't the only one involved. It relates to a more systemic issue that many religious leaders face. Achieving your goals can boost your mood. It might make leaders feel invincible and let them believe they are immune to criticism. However, the Bible is quite explicit. A proud spirit brings down a proud person, as stated in Proverbs 16:18. There have been numerous instances throughout history where leaders' pride clouded their judgment, leading to the downfall of their authority. Joni Lamb must decide. Alternatively, she can make the conscious decision to be responsible, listen to her detractors, and be humble. Nothing she has worked for is safe if she continues down the road of pride. When leaders are proud of themselves, they fail to see their own shortcomings. The result is a sheltered environment where people interpret positive outcomes as a sign of God's favor, negative ones as an indication of jealousy, and accepting responsibility as an assault. Regarding what Joni Lamb said, this is my opinion. Instead of discussing the allegations of financial mismanagement, spiritual abuse, and bullying, She centered her discussion on the expansion and growth of Daystar. You can't use progress as a reason to ignore criticism, no matter how valid it may be. Having a large congregation isn't the only factor in a thriving ministry. Impact is paramount. The message is spread in a trustworthy way, and lives are changed. If Daystar's expansion compromises transparency and accountability, then it has failed miserably. It's all an act. The crux of the matter is now at hand. Is this a temporary ploy to mask Daystar's problems? Or is the company actually doing well? Only time will reveal the outcome. One thing is certain, though: pride never triumphs. Leaders who refuse to acknowledge their mistakes, disregard constructive criticism, and prioritize their personal reputation over the welfare of their followers are destined to fail. Multiple passages in the Bible warn against the dangers of pride. "The Lord opposes the proud, but bestows grace upon the humble," states James 4:6. Jonilamb must pay attention to this message if she truly desires Daystar's success in the future. Even if she disregards criticism, it will linger. Leaders who boast about progress while ignoring concerns will widen the chasm between themselves and their followers. The Christian community must demand accountability from its leaders. No amount of achievement justifies dishonesty. We must remain truthful despite the fact that we are growing. Jonilamb must act responsibly and openly if she wants her followers to believe her again. To do this, Daystar must be forthright about its financial situation, listen to the concerns of critics and whistleblowers, and allow an independent review to investigate the allegations. What this also implies is that she needs to be willing to learn and grow from her mistakes. Being modest does not imply being feeble. It demonstrates your strength. It takes guts to admit when you're wrong, listen to criticism, and then make adjustments. This is an opportunity for Jonilamb to demonstrate courage. Over material success and attractiveness, she can demonstrate her commitment to integrity and honesty. However, by remaining stubborn, she jeopardizes not just her reputation, but also Daystar's prospects. A great deal is riding on this. With Daystar Television, you're not limited to mere viewing, a global organization that provides assistance to numerous individuals. The purpose of it is to spread the word and offer people hope. But if being dishonest, irresponsible, or haughty harms that objective, then it loses all power. Whatever Jonilamb does in this predicament will be watched by all and will have long-lasting consequences. So, what's her plan? Will her ego get in the way of her being humble and accepting responsibility? Let us keep in mind the significance of forgiveness as we consider this matter. Even though we must hold leaders accountable, we must also be compassionate and forgiving. This is not an excuse for wrongdoing or a pass on unfair treatment. Realizing that no one is perfect, that everyone makes mistakes, and that everyone needs a savior. If Jonilamb is willing to confess her mistakes, seek forgiveness, and make amends, then there is space for kindness. But being truthful and accepting responsibility are the first steps. Jonilamb, Daystar, and everyone else impacted by this incident still deserve our prayers. May we all pray for the coming of light, the execution of justice, and the restoration of health. May those who have suffered from manipulation, abuse, or wrongdoing discover solace, strength, and restoration. For the sake of all Christians, let us ask God to give us the courage to do what is right.